Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Give me a minute, I'll start from my laptop. So we saw verse 24, different aspects of Krishna reiterating the fact that Atma is indestructible and therefore there's no cause for grief for Arjuna. Then avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochitumarhasi. The self is said to be unmanifest, not an object of thought, and not subject to change. Therefore, knowing this, you should not grieve. And then we saw Athachainam Nityajatam Nityam va manyase mritam Tathapitvam Mahabaho Naivam Shochitumarhasi. And if you take the Atma to have constant birth and death, even then, O mighty armed Arjuna, You ought not to grieve for the Atma in this manner, because what is born will necessarily have to die, whereas Atma is something that is eternal. It is it is the cause of time. So anything which is in time is subject to change, modification, and death. So even if the Atma is being born all the time, why be afraid of death? Bhishma and everyone else will be born again in some other form. And if the Atma is always dying, which death are you crying for? There is no new death for which you qualify to be sad. What is dying keeps dying. You only see a fact. Thus, there is no question of sorrow with reference to births or deaths. The asat cannot be stopped by you. How are you going to stop that which is bound by time, anitya? No one is going to stop it. In fact, as Krishna tells him later, that the people Arjuna was grieving for were already as good as dead. Where does he say this? In the Vishwarupa Sandarshana Yoga, right? He says they're already dead. So, as good as dead. Therefore, he was not going to destroy anyone, nor could he hope to keep alive the people for whom he was grieving. However, if Arjuna could take them all as Atma, there would be no death for himself or anyone else. Moreover, if he continued to take the Atma to be the Anatma, the body, Deha, he could not do anything about its going. He would have to say that people were either always born or always going. To think that they were always born would not cause him any sorrow, and if they were always going, there is no new going, because always going is always going. Since there is no new going, what is there for Arjuna to cry about? For the one who is born, there is death, and for the one who is dead, there is birth. Even in this sense, Krishna said, there is no room for sorrow. Here, I just was reminded of what China would say. Would say it is the association that Arjuna was grieving not just for killing, because why was he getting so miserable? Because that lack of association was what he was not able to handle. Lack of association with that physical frame structure of Bhishma, of Drona, of all his other relatives. Again, which is born of aviveka, of avidya. Avidya of the Atma. Therefore, even knowing Atma as a concept itself, as how Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, is teaching to Arjuna, that even that concept of Atma as eternal, as unmanifest, as something that does not have birth, does not have death, that cannot be killed, cannot be wet, cannot be dried, cannot be burnt. That concept also is lifts up one from that state of misery. So we'll move on to the next verse, verse 27. जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि. Jatasya, of that which is born, mrityuhu, death, dhruvaha, he is certain indeed, mritasya cha, and that of which is dead, janma, birth, dhruvam, is certain.
Tasmat, therefore, apariharye arthe, with reference to an unalterable situation, tvam, you, shochitum, to grieve, na arhasi, ought not. Jatasya hi mrityuh dhruvah hi, mritasya cha janma dhruvam. Tasmat apariharye arthe, tvam shochitum na arhasi. Because for that which is born, death is certain, and for that which is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, you should not grieve over that which cannot be altered. There being no possible alternative, one who is born will be gone. Krishna, Rama, and all the other avatars and prophets are all gone simply because they were born. This statement would only have made Arjuna sadder because everyone he was concerned about had been born and therefore would die. It was not that he wanted them to be eternal. He just wanted them to live a few more years. Why do you want them to live a few more years? Krishna may have asked. Is there any guarantee that even if they live a little longer, you are also going to survive? This is your problem, Arjuna. There is an interesting story in the tradition about King Parikshit that bears this out. A curse was placed on him that he would die in a week. He went to Vyasa's son Shuka, who was a jnani, and told him that he had only 1 week to live. In response, Shuka just laughed. Why are you laughing? The king asked. I am going to die in a week. Shuka then explained why he was laughing. You are lucky, he said. You say you are going to die in a week. This means that you know you are going to be alive for 7 days, whereas I myself have no such guarantee. The insignificance of a lifetime. Arjuna could have died before any of the people for whom he was grieving. Before he sent out his first shot, he could have had a heart attack and died. Anyone may die at any time. When death will come is anyone's guess. And in any case, no one is going to live for very long anyway, especially when compared to the age of a rock, for example, which has been around for millions of years. If a rock had a tongue and a memory, it could tell many stories. It could deride human life and call us all pygmies, recalling the days of dinosaurs and other huge mammals. These days, the rock would say, everything is so miniature in comparison, people and elephants alike. 50, 60, or 85 years of life is nothing. By the time we are 85, most of our cells are already gone, and the rest are old and worn out. They are unable to register anything new, and even what had registered previously does not come out. Regardless of what recall button is pushed, nothing comes up. The floppy disk is all worn out. It was too flimsy to last very long anyway. What are a few more years? It is better to live only a few years with a floppy disk that works well so that when you press the button, something happens. Even a vague answer that comes quickly is better than no answer at all. One thing is certain, a little earlier or a little later means nothing in the eternal flow of time. 100 years in this eternal flow is nothing. In spite of this, however, a human being still claims to have a biography. If we compare our lifespan to that of a rock, we will always have a freshness about ourselves. The calcium and other minerals in our bones definitely have a better story to tell. They at least have a story to tell. What story do we have? The body, therefore, is nothing but a few things brought together, which necessarily fall apart again in a relatively short span of time. Another way of looking at the meaning of one's lifespan is with reference to a star. The star that we see tonight may be 200 light years away. The light we see left the star 200 years ago. During the time that it took the light to reach our eyes, the star may have died. This means that the star we see today may already be dead. Nothing travels as fast as light, as far as we know. In fact, all our concepts of time are related to the speed of light. It seems to be the constant with which we measure motion and everything else. This is the nature of the world, and 100 years is nothing but a flicker in the eternal flow of time. We come like a flicker and go like a whimper. Life is a flicker. Life is like the flicker of a firefly. Flicker, gone, flicker, gone, flicker, gone. Each birth and death represents one flicker. This flicker is our biography. We then divide it into childhood, teenage, adulthood, problems, and so on. One flicker is all we have, and within this, there are so many things we have to do. We have to celebrate, cry, marry, divorce, and retire also, all within this flicker, this beep. The one positive note here is that there is always another beep available even for the dead, who, as we have seen, are born again and again. Maybe you will beep in heaven also. There, slowly, you may beep for some time until that too is over and the next beep occurs. Therefore, this life is but a flicker, a glow, and then it is gone. Krishna was saying here that life follows a rule. If the born dies, the dead will certainly be born. Conversely, if the dead are born, the born will certainly die. These are two different points of view, with the constant being the certainty. Therefore, what is there to cry about? With reference to a matter which cannot be altered, you do not qualify to be sad because you cannot bring about any change. If you could change this fact, it would be different, but you cannot. But Atma is always there and does not elicit any sorrow from you. For the Atma's sake, you need not be sad, nor do you need to be sad for the Anatma's sake either. This line in the Gita is therefore a very important one in that it says, let me accept what I cannot change. The only alternative available is not to accept and to grieve. The point that Krishna is making here is that something that cannot be changed does not deserve any sorrow on your part. He emphasizes his point still further in the next verse. So we'll pause here. Let me know if anybody wants a repeat of any of the paragraphs. So jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuh dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasya pariharyethe natvam shochitumarhasi. Let's share our understanding of this before we go on to the next verse.
Hariom, we can apply this principle, flicker, whipper, in all conditions where we feel that we are not able to make any difference. Of course, we have to put our efforts, but when you see that in certain situations with certain people or with death, you have to accept whatever is there. Then I think our grief, our sorrows that will be less compared to continuing the efforts helplessly, going against the wind. Like, am I right when I say this?
Yeah, that is, see, to a certain extent, yes. But this is where the point in our happiness program of accept things as they are, situations and people as they are. But then we are not talking of just passive acceptance. So you actively accept things that you can change, you do change, right? But then there are things that you cannot change. So you
Yes,
pretty
we have.
well accept them.
Hmm. We don't have to stop our efforts.
Yeah.
Hmm. So this grief, Bhagwan is saying in any condition, right? Not only death.
Any condition, you can translate it. See, death is the highest for any for a person who's living. Death
Hmm.
is that is the last state, the highest state that can cause grief. Any
Correct.
other situation is less than death. So he's talking of death. So it is that what nyaya is that called? That example of the boxer, no? If you fight, then defeat the reigning champion, it is like you've defeated all the other boxers.
Yeah, correct, correct. Hmm. He is the representation. Yeah.
He represents the highest. So
Hmm. Hmm.
similarly here, the whole point is there's so many times death is coming into picture because that is the state situation that causes grief universally in everyone. So, and there cannot be any other situation greater than death that can cause grief. So all other situations come under the umbrella of this situation called death. That's called Prathama Malla Nyaya.
Prathama Malla Nyaya. Huh?
Nyaya.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Dhanyavad. Hmm.
The last paragraph it explains. It's very
Yeah.
important one. It
Yeah.
says, "Let me accept what I cannot change,"
Mm,
and the only other alternative is not to accept and grieve.
mm. Mhm. So saving our mind, no, that's the whole concept of that point of accept things and people and situations as they are, is to save your mind.
And
Gurudev.
also, oh, yeah, the moment you accept, peace, you feel very peaceful.
Mm. I'm just thinking of what Gurudev had said when, especially with people and situate people basically, when someone says something which is, say, hurtful or humiliating or something which is distasteful, he said that is coming from a sick mind. That person who says it is saying it out of ignorance. He's sick in his mind. So you will not be upset with a person who's sick. You, the only emotion that can come out from a wise person is of compassion. You have compassion for them, then automatically all that hate and regret and whatever, all the negative emotions are just in one go are kind of washed away by this overpowering compassion. You can't be upset with a person is sick, but what you can do is like this: number one, accept it and see if you can make a difference. Then life will be a song. Nothing can, no one can disturb that inner peace of mind that we have. And when you extrapolate that to the current context that we're talking about of death, even if you're near and dear were to pass on, you will not get disturbed in that inner state, that inner centeredness, because you know for a fact what is going is just the body. It's the anatma that is dying, that is dead. The atma is eternal. So what are you grieving for? The grief is because there's no more association. There's no more Bhishma that Arjuna can speak to, that he can prostrate to, that he can share a joke or share a incident, talk to. That is the grief. So that is the understanding that Krishna is attempting to give Arjuna time and again in all these shlokas. I think from the last 5-6 shlokas he's been saying that na natvam shochitum arhasi. You does not deserve any sorrow on your part, Arjuna. Shall we move on? Is anybody wanting to share any more? So that flicker is such a beautiful thing. How life, when you look at the eternal flow of time, how our, when comparison to a rock, for instance, which has been there for millions of years and has seen the dinosaur time, and now the current time that's going on, for that rock, if the rock had a mouth to speak, it would tell stories of saying how people have become miniatures from the time of dinosaurs that were huge, gigantic, to how human beings are. We would be considered pygmies in the eyes of that rock. And in that flicker, our life is like the flicker of a firefly. Flicker gone, flicker gone. And in that flicker, just imagine how much is packed. We pack up a childhood, teenage, adulthood, old age, so many situations, and we call that a biography. So much of importance we give to things which are so insignificant. Yet, in this transactional world, we still have to live it out. Live it out with this wisdom at the background. That is the whole wonder, no? The whole wonder is we are all eternal, but we are stuck in this little case called the body mind sense complex. The whole thing is like we are like that pupa stuck in the cocoon, where Vedanta is telling us, hey, you are that free butterfly. You are not bound by anything. Until and unless we release ourselves from that shackles of identifying with that limited body mind sense complex, till such time we will still be bound by everything that we attach to. अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत अव्यक्तनिधनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना. Bharata, O Bharata, Arjuna, Bhutani, beings, Avyaktadini, being not manifest in the beginning, Vyakta Madhyani, manifest in the middle, Avyakta Nidhanani, not manifest in the end, Eva, indeed, Tatra, there, Ka, what, Paridevana, grief. Bharata, Bhutani, Avyaktadini, Vyakta Madhyani, Avyakta Nidhanani, Eva, Tatra ka Paridevana. All beings are unmanifest in the beginning, manifest in the middle, and again unmanifest in the end. What indeed is there to grieve about, O Bharata? The beginnings of all living beings, including the elements themselves, are all unknown. We have to underline this line. They are not available for perception. We do not know when they were before or what happens to them after death. We do not see the soul leaving the body, despite claims to the contrary. In fact, after death, we do not know what happens. We do not see traveling souls, which is just as well. If we did, we would probably coax them back, promising to treat them better, and so on, even when they do not want to return. If we had our way, we would quite likely push these souls back into their bodies and then afterwards quarrel with them as before. Perhaps it is to avoid such problems that we do not know what happens after death. We only know what is between birth and death. Even that is something like a traveling arrow. It emerges from darkness, avyakta, passes through a lighted area, vyakta, and disappears into the darkness again, avyakta. It is not known before and it is not known later. In between, it dazzles in light. This is all life is about. This beep, glow, or flicker that we call life. Before the glow or flicker, we do not see the glowworm or the firefly. In fact, we never see it. We only see the light. After all the after the light has gone, again we see nothing. Since life is like a moving arrow, traveling between birth and death, what is there to talk about? It is not even something that is staggered. It is just passing, always moving. Why the lamentation for this moving arrow? You cannot stop it anyway. In this glow, what is there to retain? That which is always eternal is always there, and in between there is some kind of life, mithya. The question then is, what is there to lament about? If there is something that is always there and that thing has a problem, then it can be lamented about. However, what is not subject to lamentation. It is reality, the truth, satya, and it is limitless, ananda. Therefore, it is not subject to lamentation at all. Whatever else may be there is also not worth lamenting about. I will read the last two paragraphs. Since life is like a moving arrow, traveling between birth and death, what is there to talk about? It is not even something that is staggered. It is just passing, always moving. Why the lamentation for this moving arrow? You cannot stop it anyway. In this glow, what is there to retain? That which is always eternal is always there. And in between, there is some kind of life, mithya. The question then is, what is there to lament about? If there is something that is always there and that thing has a problem, then it can be lamented about. However, what is not subject to lamentation. It is reality, the truth, Satya, and it is limitless, Ananda. Therefore, it is not subject to lamentation at all. Whatever else may be there is also not worth lamenting about. So basically, he's saying Atma is not subject to lamentation because it is always there. Anatma is also not worth lamenting about because it is always changing. But then why do people lament? But people do lament. Even though life is just a beep in the eternal flow of time, they do have problems. They are concerned about their childhood, their marriage, old age, retirement, and what will happen to them after retirement. Within this one beep, all these divisions are made.
This
People,
beep is, excuse me, this beep
yeah,
is means the lifespan, the heartbeat which we are going through. What beep he is saying means I
beep is a
lost
whole
some
life,
life. Yeah, it is a
whole
time.
life. That
Life.
Vyakta Madhyani. It is
Uh,
Avyakta before.
child.
Vyakta
Hmm.
Madhyani. So this Vyakta Madhyani is like a beep.
Hmm.
No.
Okay. Okay. Good.
That
Understood.
beep, in that beep, you have compressed so many things: childhood, teenage,
Hmm.
adulthood, old age, problems, celebrations, joy, whatever. All
Hmm.
that is compressed into this one beep.
Hmm.
Within this one beep, all these divisions are made. No, all this is included in that one beep. It's like
Correct.
the firefly glowing, no? Flicker of the
Hmm.
firefly. That is what Swamiji was talking of in the last
Liquor
verse.
gone. Liquor gone.
Flicker
Hmm.
gone, flicker gone. That's how the firefly is, no? You can see it
Hmm.
once. You don't see the worm, you don't
Gone.
see the
Hmm.
firefly, but you see the
Light.
light.
Hmm.
And then it
Hmm.
disappears again. Again, you see
Hmm.
it. I think all of us have seen fireflies, no?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So that's how they glow in the dark. It is not constant glow.
Hmm.
Out of darkness, suddenly it comes, light comes. And then it becomes dark. Again it comes, again it goes.
Thank you.
People continue to lament only because of self ignorance. And this ignorance remains because there is no means of knowledge for knowing the self. The orientation of the individual is I am small, I am a nobody. Even those who claim to know, those who call themselves saviors and who say that you must be saved, confirm that the Atma is small, subject to sin, and so on. The world also confirms these notions by its very dimensions and its overwhelming strength. Because you have a particular dimension and limited powers, you find that you are helpless against bugs and certain other forces that are so overwhelmingly strong. You always find that you have to conform to these forces. Against them, you always feel that you are a nobody. Thus, everything confirms my notion that I am small. And this conclusion about the I is the problem. Introducing the next verse, Shankara agreed with Krishna that the Atma is not easily understood. Arjuna is not the only one who laments. He is not the only person subject to sorrow. Sorrow is universal. So, aham kinchignaha, aham alpagnaha. This is the ignorance self-ignorance is what causes us to lament. That is why even a small, minute, microscopic, ultra microscopic bug like influenza, also we are scared. We feel overwhelmed by, right? We are having a wave of influenza here. I think it's all also, I mean, across the world right now. So even bugs we are overwhelmed by bugs. Why? Because of ignorance of the true self. Hmm.
Here, Hariom, nicely proven by Swamiji that even Ajnana is infinite. No, we continue to associate our preconditioning from Janmo Janma with the physical body.
Hmm. Ajnana is seemingly infinite, but it has an end.
Yeah, yeah. With just
With the
lit,
dawn of knowledge,
light of knowledge, yeah,
light
with a
of knowledge,
sword.
it has
Hmm.
an end,
Hmm.
right? So that
Correct.
is the whole mithya aspect of it. So we can
Hmm.
argue how come is it, how can it be infinite? There can only be one infinite thing. Yes, that's the illusory aspect of Maya.
But these people continue to lament only because of self ignorance, and this ignorance remains because there is no means of knowledge for knowing the self. So, this sentence I could not understand, because only the knowledge make you understand the self and the experience of yourself.
Correct. Which is true. But what Swamiji is mentioning here is about
Hmm.
those saviors. Did you see the so-called evangelists? They say, "Oh, we've come to save you from this world." See, even those who claim to know, those who call themselves saviors and who say that you must be saved, confirm that the Atma is small, subject to sin. That is why even in this Jai Jagadisha Hare,
Hmm.
there is one verse that says, what is that? Uh, I'm a sinner and you are sinless. What is that verse that says that? And even in that pradakshina, Atma pradakshina that we do, Yani kani cha papani janmantara kritani cha tani tani pranashyanti pradakshina pade pade. Papoham papakarmana papatma papasambhavat. Trahimam kripaya deva sharanagata vatsal. So that actually is counter Vedanta. Because Vedanta says you are sinless. So even considering ourselves as sinful is actually not according to Vedanta. It is
But it
somewhere,
actually said, because of the Adnana, I am doing the Papa, and that from that Papa, you mokshami, means mokshami.
yeah.
That
But
like that it
at
is
some
the
point,
prayer.
Gurudev was not
Hmm.
in favor of that. If I remember
Hmm.
right, he's saying, no, by you telling yourself you're a sinner, you are putting yourself down. You are
Hmm.
actually blemishless. You are sinless,
Hmm. Pure. Hmm.
pure. That is why he does not. None of our bhajans have this thing of that. Oh, I
Aparadh kshama. Aparadh
ah
kshama mochan is not there. Hmm.
ah. What is that line in this Jai Jag? Every time we sing that Jai Jagadisha Hare, when that line comes, this is what Gurudev talked about. Keeps coming back. So basically, it is those evangelists who think you know, you're subject to sin. And they confirm that Atma is small, subject to sin, and so on. So the world also confirms these notions by its very dimensions and its overwhelming strength. See, what he's trying to say, Swamiji, is that as long as you're not, it does not mean that there is no means of knowledge. As long as you're reeling in this ignorance, unless you're exposed to Vedanta, there is no means of knowledge, of knowing the self, isn't it? Unless you get onto this path, there is no way. Within the world, you're going round in circles. There is no way of you knowing the self. I think that is how we need to understand this. Vishaya vikar mitao, papa haro deva, right?
Yes, Brahmaraji.
May kal, ne, what is that? Um, there's one more line, Bela, after this. May kal. मैं मूरख तुम स्वामी, right? Is that what it is?
या पर वो श्रद्धा भक्ति बढ़ाओ, इस लाइन के बाद तो विषय विकार मिटाओ एंड देन श्रद्धा भक्ति बढ़ाओ.
हाँ, but there is one that says
मैं मूरख तुम
मैं मूरख
स्वामी.
तुम स्वामी, right?
किस
So,
विध मिलू दयामय, I think.
Yeah. Somewhere, I can't really remember where exactly Gurudev said that. He says that even that thing of main Murak, you're not a Murak. You know, you're giving an auto suggestion of saying, oh, I'm a fool. You're not. You're not a sinner. You are clean and blemishless. So that some of these bhajans that have this, you know, that put yourself in a in a very limited state of mind. If you notice, none of the Art of Living bhajans have that concept, or they don't. None of them have those lines.
Even all most of the Shankaracharya bhashyas are also always elevating. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, nothing against these bhajans. Absolutely nothing against them, but uh, it is
it is
again
just
putting yourself in that shell again.
no,
Whereas
it is like in
Go ahead, Bella, please.
No, you please go ahead. It is. I just wanted to say it is against that jnana. मैं मूर्ख because I have been conditioned by that sense. So in
Dvaita
that
bhav is very
sense,
strong, and
Mm,
that's how.
correct. You're right.
I think these two concepts, like I'm small and I'm big, can be used to our convenience. Like when I'm feeling I'm too great and all, the ego is bloated, that time to see the context into the, like what we just now saw, the lifespan, and there you come like a flicker and go, or the magnanimity of the Brahman. In that sense, we should feel the smallness. But when we feel low or depressed, that time you think of that n- uh, ever present and present everywhere, the Brahman, and we are that. I think we can use these both the contexts according to our convenience, I feel.
yeah. So that that ego will
Yeah,
remain.
because many times in that we have done that, right? Like when we feel we are big, we no one can challenge me. That kind of feeling become gets into us. But that time when we think that, yeah, in that context, like we are nothing, and we'll just come here and go.
Yeah, in
But
either case,
when
correct.
feeling
What you said is
low,
right.
think of that Brahman,
Correct. In
which is
either case, what
yeah,
is there is the truth. So when you're
correct.
when you're centered in that Atma Jnana, then it relieves you of either situation. It gets you out of it.
Mm.
That is two different reality also.
Because again, what we are here is a mithya, right?
Mm.
When that doership comes, I think, to remind ourselves that this is just a flicker, or
Mm.
yeah. Even I used to feel very funny when the like even the Meera bhajans and all, or not Meera bhajans, but some of the poets, they have been writing that, I'm nothing, pao ki dhool, all of that, or give me some grief so that I remember. Like the
Mm.
other day, somebody said, no, Draupadi was saying that, give me some pain so that I remember you. And I couldn't agree to that. Like, why you want to have pain to remember God? Otherwise, also you can remember, right?
Right. So here we have Vedanta on one side. What we are discussing right now is the Vedanta, right? It is from the Shastra. And the other that we're trying to relate to is all from stories, from, say, Puranas and what have happened. I mean, Meera is like not a story. It's a she was there a few centuries back. So it is what that was the travails of a human being who is yet to be enlightened. It was coming from the words of a sadhak. So here what we're talking of is what Krishna is telling Arjuna is the ultimate truth of what you are. Not from the eyes of a jnani is what we are looking at here. The whole of the Bhagavad Gita is that, right? Vedanta is that. Whereas in one sense it is true. It is only when you are in grief, when you are going through some challenge, that you actually remember God. In times of happiness, in times of um, pleasant situations, you don't really remember God. You're just happy, you're celebrating and being happy, isn't it? So there is some truth to that saying, um, please give me grief so I can remember you. I will not leave that connect with you. It's probably coming from that space. But you're right, in the absolute sense, there is no cause for grief at all. There is, you in all these verses that Krishna has been reiterating to Arjuna, you have no reason to grieve. But that is still as long as you get that Atma Jnana, or even as a concept. Oh, we have 5 minutes left. So we'll read the significance of Shankara's commentary tomorrow. There is actually a few paragraphs. If you allow me, I'll just finish this so then we can start from the 29th verse tomorrow. The significance of Shankara's commentary, because we will be drawing on Shankara's commentary throughout our study of the Gita. A brief explanation on the place commentaries hold in the teaching tradition is in order here. The word bhashya refers to a commentary of an original work. The Gita is an original work, and therefore Shankara's commentary of it is a bhashya. For a work to be original in our context, it must have the status of a scripture or shruti, meaning the Upanishads. If the Gita did not have the status of Shruti, any commentary of it would be called only a Vyakhyana. But Shankara's commentary is not a Vyakhyana. It is a Bhashya because the Gita has the status of the original work. Any commentary on the Upanishads themselves, of course, is a Bhashya because the Upanishads are Shruti, providing what has been written is something more than the simple meaning of the verses. A commentary becomes a Bhashya when it gives the meaning and also defends the meaning that is given. A person who has written a Bhashya is called Bhashyakara. Tikakara refers to a person who has written explanatory notes, Tika, for a Bhashya. These notes serve to introduce the topic by explaining the sentences of the Bhashya or a particular word in a sentence. A Tika is not an independent work because it follows the Bhashya, line by line, sentence by sentence. There is another type of work called Vartika, which is an independent exposition in verse form on the Bhashya itself, not on the original. A Vartika is not a Tika because it either goes beyond the Bhashya or it is a further explanation of the Bhashya. The person who writes a Vartika is called Vartika Kara. There is a tradition, a sampradaya, in which certain people are recognized according to these categories. In Vedanta, by Vartika Kara, for instance, we mean the oldest of Bhashyakara's 4 disciples, Sureshwara. Again, when we say Bhashyakara, we mean Shankara. Patanjali is known as Mahabhashyakara. The Mahabhashya being the commentary on the sutras of Panini on grammar, Vyakarana Sutras. Tikakara generally refers in this tradition to Anandagiri, who wrote a Tika for all of Shankara's commentaries. There are many Tikakaras. Anyone who comments upon the Bhashya, sentence after sentence, as a traditional teacher does, becomes a Tikakara. Knowing then that the words Bhashyakara and Bhashya refer to Shankara and Shankara's commentaries respectively, we can proceed. So we'll stop here. This is basically some knowledge about Bhashya, Bhashyakara, Tikakara, and Vartikakara. So Bhashya is basically a commentary on an original text, original work. Like the Upanishads, they have to have the status of the Shruti. So Bhagavad Gita is, of course, has the status of an Upanishad. Sarvo Panishado Gavo Dogdha Go. So it is actually the gist of all the Upanishads. So we'll stop here. Tomorrow, we will need someone to take it on. Tomorrow, day after, till the 16th. 14th and 15th, if someone can chip in. Huh?
If no one is coming up, I'll be there definitely.
Okay. So I will, they're actually Bela and I don't know whether Dr. Savita, I hope you're doing well. You're getting better in your back.
Yeah, I'm perfectly well now.
You're well? Good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. So we'll take it up. I'll add you also to the group, Mrinal, and then we can
Okay.
decide who's doing it. Okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.
Meditation.
is accepting this moment, living every moment totally with depth. Let us keep our spine erect and body relaxed and eyes closed. Relax your shoulders. Keep a big smile on your face. You're sitting like the statue of Buddha, very serene and with a serene smile on your face. Relax your body. Let's take a deep breath in and breathe out. Become aware of your chest region, throat and chest region. If you notice some tension in the body, just let it be. Accept those parts of the body where you feel a tension. The other parts are in comfort. Other parts are at peace. Become aware of that also. There are many good things about you and inside of you. Acknowledge them. They will never leave you. And the negative aspect you may see in you is never going to stay with you forever. They are all guests for some time. Let them be. Sit with the total acceptance of yourself the way you are at this very moment. Total acceptance of what is now here will lead us to deeper meditation. Let go of all the efforts. Shanti. Let go of all your effort and be in this emptiness. And slowly and gradually become aware of body and surroundings. And you may gently open your eyes.